The ship hummed with the quiet sounds of space travel. Metal creaked as it adjusted to the cold void outside. Lights flickered in the long hallways. Somewhere deep in the engine room, machines pushed the vessel forward through the stars. Commander Elias Vance walked through these halls every day. He had done so for 3 years now. 3 years aboard the Constellation, a research vessel that carried scientists and diplomats from 12 different alien species. 3 years of being the only human on board. He had grown used to the strange looks, the careful way other crew members moved around him, the padded chairs they installed in his quarters, the adjusted gravity in his sleeping area. To them, he was fragile, breakable, a creature made of soft tissue and thin bones who had somehow crawled out of a violent planet and learned to travel among the stars. Elias did not mind. He understood their concern. Humans were new to the galactic community. They had only made contact with other species 40 years ago. In that time, they had proven themselves to be hard workers and creative thinkers. But they had also proven to be mortal in ways that other species found disturbing. A human could die from a fall, from a cut, from eating the wrong food, from breathing the wrong air. The galaxy had seen many species rise and fall, but few were as easy to kill as humans, and yet few were as stubborn about staying alive. Elias entered the galley for the evening meal. The room was large and round, with tables arranged in a circle around a central cooking station. Different species required different foods, so the station had 12 separate preparation areas. The smell was always interesting, sometimes pleasant, sometimes less so. Tonight, the galley was busy. Elias saw Kethra at one of the tables, her green scales catching the light as she prepared her meal. She was young for a Velthari, barely past her first century. Her claws were still growing, still clumsy. She had a habit of dropping things. Ambassador Yanori sat at the next table. She was Melodari, a species that had evolved on a world of crystal caves. Her body was beautiful and terrible, tall and thin, made of something that looked like living glass. Light passed through her and scattered into rainbows on the walls. But that beauty came with a price. The Melodari were fragile in ways that made humans look sturdy. A hard impact could shatter them like a dropped vase. Elias nodded to both of them as he walked to the food station. He selected a simple meal: protein cubes and vegetable paste. Not exciting, but safe. Human stomachs were sensitive to alien foods. He was about to sit down when the ship shuddered. The impact came without warning. Later, they would learn it was a small asteroid, no bigger than a fist. It had struck the outer hull at high speed. The shields absorbed most of the damage, but the force rippled through the ship like a wave. Elias grabbed the edge of a table to steady himself. Around him, other crew members did the same. The shaking lasted only a few seconds. Then it stopped. "Everyone all right?" Elias called out. He heard voices responding. "Yes. Fine. No injuries." He relaxed slightly. Then he heard Kethra gasp. He turned and saw the knife. A thermal blade, used for cutting through the tough foods that Velthari preferred. It had slipped from Kethra's claws when the ship shook. Now it tumbled through the air, spinning end over end, heading directly toward Ambassador Yanori. Time seemed to slow. Elias watched the blade rotate. He saw its edge catch the light. He saw the trajectory it followed. He saw where it would land: the ambassador's throat, the thinnest part of her crystalline body, the place where a single hard strike could crack her open and end her life. Yanori saw it too. Her eyes widened, but she could not move fast enough. Melodari were not built for quick reactions. They were thinkers, not fighters. By the time her body responded, the knife would already be buried in her neck. Elias did not think. He moved. His hand shot out faster than he had ever moved before. He was not close enough. He knew that. The logical part of his brain told him he could not possibly reach the knife in time. The distance was too great. The blade was too fast. Physics would not allow it, but his body did not listen to logic. His body only knew one thing. Someone was about to die. Someone he could save. Someone he had to save. His fingers stretched toward the spinning blade. Closer, closer, almost there. And then, the knife stopped. It hung in the air, frozen, completely still. The blade pointed at Yanori's throat, less than a millimeter from Elias's fingertips. It did not fall. It did not move. It simply floated there, caught in the middle of nothing. The galley went silent. Elias stared at his hand, at the knife, at the impossible space between them. His heart pounded in his chest. His breath came in short gasps. He did not understand what he was seeing. Slowly, carefully, he closed his fingers around the handle of the blade. The moment he touched it, the knife seemed to wake up. It dropped into his palm like it had always meant to be there, like it had been waiting for him. He lowered his arm. The blade felt heavy in his hand, heavier than it should. Around him, 11 aliens stared with expressions he had never seen before. Kethra's scales had gone pale. The Velthari only did that when they were truly afraid. Ambassador Yonori had not moved. Her crystalline face showed something that might have been shock, or wonder, or terror. Captain Morveth stepped forward. The captain was Thornaki, a species built like a walking tree, strong and slow and ancient. In 3 years, Elias had never seen the captain look uncertain, until now. "Commander Vance," the captain said. His voice was careful, measured. "What did you just do?" Elias looked at the knife in his hand, then at the spot where it had frozen in the air, then at the captain. "I don't know," he said. "I was trying to catch it, but it stopped before I could touch it." "Things do not stop in midair," the captain said. "Not without a reason, not without a force acting upon them." "I know," Elias said. "I know that, but I didn't do anything, I just reached for it." The captain was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to the intercom panel on the wall. "Synthesis," he said. "I need you in the galley." Immediately, the ship's ancient intelligence responded in a voice like distant thunder. "I am already watching, Captain. I have been watching since the moment the blade left young Kethra's claws." A pause. "I have no explanation for what I just witnessed, but I intend to find one." Elias set the knife down on the nearest table. His hand was shaking. He could feel every eye in the room fixed on him, looking at him like he was something new, something unknown, something dangerous. For 3 years, he had been the fragile one, the breakable human, the soft creature from a violent world. Now they looked at him like he was something else entirely. And Elias Vance had no idea what that something was. The medical bay of the constellation was cold and white. Machines lined the walls, each one designed for a different species. Scanners and probes and devices that Elias could not name. He sat on a metal table in the center of the room, feeling very small. Synthesis, the ship's intelligence, spoke through every speaker at once. The voice filled the room like fog, ancient and patient and curious. "I have completed my analysis," the intelligence said. "I have run every scan available to me. I have compared the results to every database in my memory. I have consulted with research stations across 17 systems." Captain Morveth stood near the door, his bark-like skin creased with worry. Ambassador Yonori hovered nearby, her crystalline body catching the medical lights. Kethra had refused to leave. She blamed herself for dropping the knife, though no one else blamed her. "What did you find?" the captain asked. "Something impossible," Synthesis replied. "Something that should not exist. Something that changes everything we thought we knew about humans." Elias felt his stomach tighten. "Just tell me, please." The lights in the room dimmed slightly. A holographic display appeared in the air above Elias's head. It showed his brain, rendered in glowing blue lines. Pathways of light pulsed through the image like rivers of electricity. When Commander Vance reached for that knife, Synthesis began. His neural activity spiked in ways I have never recorded in a human before, in any species before. For approximately 0.003 seconds, his brain generated a field of energy that extended beyond his physical body. "A psionic field," Ambassador Yonori said softly. Her voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Yes," Synthesis confirmed, "but not like any psionic field we have documented. The Melodari have limited telepathic abilities. The Thornaki can sense emotional states. 12 species in this galaxy have demonstrated some form of psychic capability. Humans have always tested negative. Every examination, every experiment. No human has ever shown any sign of psionic potential." "Then how did I do it?" Elias asked. "Because we were testing the wrong thing," Synthesis said. "We tested humans under controlled conditions, safe environments, calm situations. We measured their brain activity during rest and during stress and during physical exertion. We found nothing unusual. The holographic brain pulsed brighter. New pathways lit up, ones that had been dark before. We never tested what happens when a human tries to save someone else's life. The room was silent. Elias could hear his own heartbeat. Humans evolved on Earth. Synthesis continued. A planet so hostile that 99% of all species that ever existed there went extinct. The conditions were brutal. Predators everywhere. Natural disasters, disease, poison, radiation, extreme temperatures. By any reasonable measure, humans should have died out millions of years ago. We know all this, Captain Morvith said. Humans are survivors, stubborn, and adaptable. Yes, but we missed something. We focused on how humans survived as individuals. We did not consider how they survived as groups. The holographic display changed, showing images of ancient humans working together. Hunting, building, protecting their young. Humans are social creatures. They form bonds. They care about each other. They will risk their own lives to save members of their group, even when logic says they should run. Elias thought of his parents, his sister, his friends back on Earth. He thought of the crew of the Constellation, aliens who had become like family over 3 years. This trait, Synthesis said, this willingness to sacrifice for others, was so important to human survival that it became written into their very biology. Deep in the human brain, there is a structure that activates only in moments of extreme crisis, not personal crisis, not fear for one's own life. It activates when a human perceives that someone they care about is in immediate danger. And this structure, Ambassador Yanori said, generates the psionic field. More than that, Synthesis replied. When this structure activates, the human brain briefly generates enough psychic energy to alter physical reality. Not through telekinesis, not through any force we understand. The human brain, in that moment, becomes absolutely convinced that a certain outcome cannot happen, that the person they are trying to save cannot die. And reality responds to that conviction. Elias shook his head. That's impossible. Believing something doesn't make it true. For most species, you are correct. But humans are different. Your neural architecture is unique. Your brain does not simply process reality. In extreme moments, it can project reality. Your mind reached out and told the universe that the knife could not reach Ambassador Yanori, and the universe listened. Captain Morveth stepped closer. His ancient eyes studied Elias with new interest. You are saying that human thoughts can change the physical world? Only in very specific circumstances, Synthesis said. Only when a human is trying to save another life. Only when their conscious mind has no time to doubt. Only when their deepest instincts take over. The holographic display faded. Commander Vance did not think about what he was doing. He simply refused to accept a reality where the ambassador died. His brain, for a fraction of a second, became an engine of pure, protective will. And that will was strong enough to stop a knife in midair. Kethra made a small sound. Her scales had flushed dark green, the Velthari sign of deep shame. I almost killed the ambassador, and I awakened something terrible in the commander. Not terrible, Ambassador Yanori said. She moved closer to Elias, her crystalline form ringing softly with each step. Wonderful. The humans have carried this gift for thousands of generations without knowing. All their stories of miracles, all their tales of impossible rescues. They were not myths. They were glimpses of something real. Elias looked down at his hands. The same hands that had reached for the knife. The same hands that had somehow commanded the universe to stop. Can I control it? He asked. Unknown. Synthesis replied. The activation requires genuine crisis, genuine care, genuine belief that you can save someone. If you try to force it, if you think too much about what you are doing, the effect will likely fail. The power comes from your instincts, not your conscious mind. So I can only use it when I'm not trying to use it? Essentially, yes. Your ability is tied to the oldest parts of your brain, the parts that existed before humans learned to speak, before they learned to think in words. Those parts do not respond to commands. They respond to love, to fear, to the desperate need to protect. Elias closed his eyes. He thought about the moment in the galley, the way time had seemed to slow, the way his body had moved without permission, the way he had felt, in that instant, absolutely certain that he could save Yanori. He had not thought. He had not planned. He had simply acted, and the universe had bent to his will. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now," Captain Morvith said heavily, "we must report this to the Hegemony Council. They will want to know that humans possess abilities we never suspected, abilities that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. They will be afraid," Ambassador Yonori said. "Many species will see this as a threat." "Yes," the captain agreed. "They will." Elias opened his eyes. He looked at the aliens around him. Kethra, young and scared. Yonori, ancient and wise. Morveth, strong and worried. Synthesis, vast and curious. They had been his crew for 3 years, his friends, his family. Now they looked at him like he was something new, something that could save them, or something that could destroy everything. "I didn't ask for this," Elias said quietly. "No one ever does," Synthesis replied. "But you have it nonetheless. The question now is what you will do with it. What humanity will do with it. The galaxy is watching, Commander Vance, and it is holding its breath." The news spread faster than light itself. Within hours of the captain's report, every major communication network in the galaxy carried the story. A human had stopped a knife with his mind. Not through technology, not through training, through something buried deep in human biology that no one had ever suspected. Within days, researchers across 100 worlds began reviewing old records, old incidents, old mysteries that had never been explained. The findings were disturbing. On the colony world of New Brisbane, records showed that a human mother had once carried her injured child 12 kilometers through a toxic jungle. Medical experts said the journey should have killed her within the first hour. The toxins in the air should have stopped her heart. But she had walked, and walked, and walked, until she reached the medical station. Then she had collapsed. She survived. So did her child. On the mining station above Kepler, 442b, a human engineer had held together a ruptured pressure seal with his bare hands for 47 minutes while his coworkers escaped. The force of the escaping air should have torn his arms from his body. It did not. He held the seal until the last person was safe. Then he let go. On the battlefield of Proxima Reach, human soldiers had carried wounded comrades through enemy fire again and again. The enemy commander later said it was like shooting at ghosts. The bullets seemed to miss. The explosions seemed to land just slightly off target, as if something was pushing them away from the humans who ran with their friends in their arms. The galaxy had always called these stories luck, adrenaline, human stubbornness. Now they understood the truth. Humans could bend reality when someone they loved was in danger. They had been doing it for thousands of years without knowing. The Hegemony Council met on the station called Center Point. It floated in the middle of neutral space, a massive structure where representatives from every major species gathered to discuss matters that affected the galaxy. Elias Vance was asked to attend, not as a commander, not as a crew member, as a representative of humanity. He stood before the council in a chamber so large that clouds formed near the ceiling. Thousands of aliens watched from tiered seats that rose like mountains around him. Some he recognized, most he did not. Creatures of every shape and color and form. Some breathed air. Some breathed liquid. Some did not breathe at all. They all stared at him with the same expression. Fear mixed with wonder, mixed with something that might have been hunger. "The human will explain what he has done," said High Arbiter Kovith, a massive creature that looked like a mountain that had learned to speak. The Arbiter led the council. Its word was law. "I didn't do anything on purpose," Elias said. His voice sounded small in the vast chamber. "I saw someone in danger. I tried to help. Something happened that I don't understand." "Something happened," Kovith repeated. "You bent the laws of physics. You stopped a moving object with your thoughts. You did what no species has done in 10,000 years. A murmur ran through the crowd. Elias saw delegates leaning toward each other, whispering in languages he could not understand. "The Keth Dominion demands action," called a voice from the upper tiers. Elias looked up and saw a delegation of insectoid creatures, their carapaces gleaming like polished metal. "Humans must be contained, quarantined. They are a threat to galactic stability." "The Melodari disagree," Ambassador Yonori said. She stood in the section reserved for her people, her crystalline form shining like a beacon. "The human saved my life. He used his gift to protect, not to harm. This time," the Keth delegate replied. "What happens when humans learn to control this ability? What happens when they use it as a weapon? They could stop hearts with a thought, freeze armies in place, bend reality to crush their enemies. More voices rose, arguments for and against, demands and defenses. The chamber became a storm of sound. Then a new voice spoke, quiet but somehow clear above all the noise. You are all asking the wrong question. The chamber fell silent. Every eye turned to a section near the back, where a group of beings sat in shadow. They were tall and thin, wrapped in robes that seemed to absorb the light around them. The archivists, the oldest species still living in the galaxy. They had watched civilizations rise and fall for longer than most species had existed. One of them rose and floated down toward the center of the chamber. It stopped beside Elias and regarded him with eyes that held no color, only depth. We have seen this before, the archivist said. Long ago, before your species crawled from the mud of your homeworld. Before most of the species in this chamber had learned to use fire. The precursors, Koveth said. The name seemed to carry weight. Even the Keth delegates grew quiet. Yes, the precursors. The greatest civilization this galaxy has ever known. They built wonders that we still do not understand. They spread across 1,000 systems. They were wise and powerful and kind. The archivist paused, and they had the same gift that sleeps in human minds. Elias felt cold. What happened to them? They discovered their ability, much as you did. Accidents, miracles, moments when reality bent to protect those they loved. At first, they were careful. They used their gift only in emergencies, only when lives were at stake. But then they tried to control it. Elias guessed. Worse, they tried to systematize it. They created training programs, methods to trigger the protective response on command. They built machines to amplify it. They thought they could save everyone, protect every life, prevent every death. The archivist's colorless eyes seemed to grow darker. They were wrong. What went wrong? The gift comes from love, from genuine care for others. When the precursors tried to force it, they had to manufacture that care. They had to decide which lives were worth saving. They built hierarchies, priorities, systems to determine who deserved protection and who did not. The archivist shook its head slowly. Compassion cannot be calculated. The moment they tried to control who was worth saving, they stopped saving anyone. Their gift faded. And without it, they fell. The chamber was utterly silent now. Elias could hear his own heartbeat again. You are telling us, Koveth said slowly, that this power cannot be weaponized? It can be, for a time. But the attempt destroys those who make it. The precursors tried to make miracles into tools. In doing so, they lost the ability to create miracles at all. Their last records speak of a galaxy they could no longer protect, of children dying while their parents stood helpless, of a gift that had become a curse. The archivist turned to face the entire council. The humans have something precious, something rare. If you try to take it from them, if you try to force them to use it for your purposes, you will destroy it, and you will destroy them. Elias looked up at the ancient being. What should we do? Nothing, the archivist replied. Your gift exists because your species evolved to care for each other. It works because you do not think about it, because when you see someone in danger, you act without calculation, without politics, without deciding whether they deserve your help. It reached out and placed a cold hand on Elias's shoulder. The moment you try to control it, you lose it. The moment you ask who is worth saving, you can no longer save anyone. The archivist floated back toward its delegation. At the edge of the shadow, it paused and looked back. Let the humans be, it said. Watch them, learn from them, but do not try to change them. Their gift is not something that can be taken, or taught, or traded. It simply is. And if the galaxy is fortunate, it will remain so. The chamber erupted into noise again. Arguments and debates and proposals. But Elias barely heard them. He was thinking about the precursors, a civilization that had tried to turn love into a system, that had calculated who deserved to live and who deserved to die, and he was wondering if humanity would make the same mistake. 3 months passed after the council meeting. The debates continued. The arguments raged, but no decision was reached. The galaxy remained divided between those who feared humanity and those who wanted to understand them. Elias returned to the constellation. He tried to continue his normal duties, tried to pretend that nothing had changed. But everything had changed. The crew looked at him differently now. Not with fear, exactly. More like caution. Like they were waiting for something to happen. He did not blame them. He was waiting, too. The diplomatic function was supposed to be simple. A gathering of representatives from friendly species. Held on a station near the border of Melodari space. Ambassador Yonori had invited the crew of the Constellation as honored guests. A thank you for saving her life. Elias almost did not go. The attention made him uncomfortable. But Kethra convinced him. She said it would be good to see friendly faces, to remember that not everyone in the galaxy was afraid of him. The station was beautiful. Built by the Melodari centuries ago, it was made of the same crystalline material as their bodies. Light danced through the walls and floors and ceilings, creating rainbows that shifted with every step. Music played from somewhere, a gentle melody that seemed to come from the structure itself. Elias stood near a window, watching ships drift past in the void outside. He held a drink he had not tasted. Around him, aliens mingled and talked and laughed. Kethra was somewhere nearby, her green scales standing out among the crystalline Melodari. Captain Morvith stood in a corner, deep in conversation with a group of Thornaki elders. It felt almost normal, almost peaceful. Then the shadows moved. Elias did not see them at first. No one did. The wraiths were designed to be invisible. They existed partially outside normal space-time, sliding through the gaps between moments. They were assassins of the highest order. Expensive, efficient, nearly impossible to stop. Someone had hired them to kill Elias Vance. He became aware of the danger the same way he had become aware of the falling knife. Not through sight or sound. Through something deeper, something that lived in the oldest parts of his brain. He turned from the window just as the first wraith materialized. It was tall and thin, wrapped in darkness that clung to it like a second skin. Its face was blank. Its eyes were empty. In its hand, it held a blade that seemed to drink the light around it. More shapes appeared. 3, 4, 7. They stepped out of nothing, surrounding the room, blocking every exit. Their movements were impossibly fast. Between one heartbeat and the next, they had positioned themselves throughout the chamber. The guests began to scream. Elias watched the wraiths move. They were not heading for him. They were heading for his friends. For Kethra, who stood frozen near a fountain. For Captain Morvith, who had drawn a weapon that would do nothing against creatures from outside time. For Ambassador Yonori, whose crystalline body offered no defense against the darkness-wrapped blades. The wraiths wanted him to watch. They wanted him to see everyone he cared about die before they killed him. They had made a mistake. Elias felt something wake inside him, something that had been sleeping since the day in the galley. It rose through his chest like fire. It filled his head with light. It screamed in a voice without words. No, the wraiths were fast. They moved between seconds, striking at targets no one could defend. Their blades cut through the air toward throats and hearts and heads, and then everything stopped. The blades froze mid-swing. The wraiths froze mid-step. The screams froze mid-breath. The rainbows froze mid-dance. The music froze mid-note. Everything stopped except Elias Vance. He stood in a moment that stretched to infinity. The universe had paused around him, caught like a fly in amber. He could see each blade, each victim, each wraith. He could see the path that each attack would take. He could see the deaths that would follow if time resumed. He walked through the frozen moment. His footsteps made no sound. His breath hung in the air like fog. Around him, faces were locked in expressions of terror and despair. Kethra's eyes were closed. She was waiting for a death she could not stop. Captain Morvith's bark-like face showed grim determination. He had placed himself between a wraith and a group of younger guests. He knew he would die. He did not care. Ambassador Yonori had reached out toward Elias. Her crystalline hand was stretched in his direction. She had been trying to warn him, trying to save him, even though she could not save herself. Elias felt tears on his cheeks. He had not known he was crying. He moved to each wraith. Carefully, gently, he redirected their blades. He pushed them away from vital targets. He turned their strikes into misses. He could not hurt them. In this frozen moment, he could barely touch them, but he could change where they were aiming. He moved Yonori's fragile body behind a pillar. He shifted Kethra away from the fountain, out of a wraith's path. He positioned himself between the attackers and his crew. It took forever. It took no time at all. He existed in the space between seconds, rearranging reality like furniture in a room. When he was done, he returned to the center of the chamber. He looked at the frozen wraiths with their empty eyes and their darkness-wrapped blades. He felt the power inside him pulse like a second heart. He understood now. The gift was not about stopping knives. It was not about freezing time. It was about refusing to accept a world where the people he loved could be taken from him. The precursors had lost this gift when they tried to control it, when they calculated who deserved to live, when they turned compassion into a system. Elias would not make that mistake. He let go. Time resumed. The wraiths stumbled, suddenly off balance. Their blades struck empty air where targets had been moments before. They spun, confused, searching for victims who had somehow moved. The guests stared. They had been frozen. They had been dying. Now they were alive, and they did not understand why. The wraiths turned toward Elias. All 7 of them. Their empty eyes fixed on the human who stood alone in the center of the chamber. The human who had somehow survived their attack. "Leave," Elias said. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the chamber like thunder. "Leave now, and do not return. Tell whoever hired you that they cannot kill me by killing my friends. Tell them that every time they try, I will stop them. Not because I am powerful, but because I love these people. And love, it turns out, is stronger than time." The wraiths did not move. They studied him, calculated, assessed. Then, without a word, they melted back into the shadows. One by one, they disappeared. They slipped into the spaces between moments and were gone. The chamber was silent. Elias looked at his hands. They were shaking. The power had faded, retreating back to whatever deep place it lived inside him. He felt empty, exhausted, alive. Kethra was the first to move. She ran to him and wrapped her arms around him, her scales rough against his skin. She was crying, green tears that smelled like spring rain. "You saved us," she whispered. "All of us. I don't understand how, but you saved us." Captain Morvith approached slowly. His ancient eyes held something new. Respect, wonder, perhaps a little fear. "What did you do, Commander?" he asked. Elias shook his head. "I don't know how to explain it. I just refused. I refused to let them hurt you. I refused so hard that time itself listened." Ambassador Yanori came to stand beside him. Her crystalline hand touched his cheek, cool and smooth. "The precursors thought they could control this gift," she said softly. "They thought they could decide who was worth saving. But you did not decide. You did not calculate. You simply loved and acted and refused to accept loss." "Is that the difference?" Elias asked. "Is that why it works for me? Perhaps. Or perhaps you are simply the first in a long time to have the courage to act without thinking." She smiled, and rainbows danced across her face. "Either way, Commander Vance, you have given us something precious tonight. You have given us hope." Elias looked around the chamber, at the guests who had nearly died, at the crew who had become his family, at the crystalline walls that still sang with music. He did not know what came next. He did not know if there would be more attacks, more tests, more moments where he would have to reach inside himself and find the strength to bend reality. But he knew one thing for certain. He would not let fear control him. He would not let calculations replace compassion. He would not let the power become a weapon. He would simply love, and hope that love would be enough. The attack on the diplomatic function changed everything. Within hours, the identity of those who hired the wraiths was exposed. A faction within the Hegemony Council, led by members of the Keth Dominion, had decided to eliminate the human threat before it could grow. They had paid a fortune to assassins who had never failed. The assassins had failed. The scandal brought down governments. The Keth Dominion leaders who had ordered the attack were arrested and tried for crimes against the peace. Other species who had supported the plan quietly distanced themselves. The galaxy watched as powerful beings fell because they had tried to kill one human and the people he loved. But Elias found no joy in their punishment. He found no satisfaction in revenge. He only felt tired. The Hegemony Council summoned him again. This time, he walked into the chamber not as a curiosity, but as something else. A symbol, a possibility, a question that the galaxy had not yet answered. High Arbiter Koveth sat at the center of the chamber, its mountain-sized body somehow smaller than before. The attack had shaken the council. It had shown them that their own members could not be trusted. That fear could drive even wise beings to terrible choices. "Commander Vance," Kovith said, "you have been through much. We are sorry for what happened." "Thank you," Elias replied. He stood alone in the center of the chamber, but he did not feel alone. In the galleries above, he could see the crew of the Constellation. Kethra's green scales, Captain Morveth's bark-like face, Ambassador Yannori's crystalline form, his family. "We have received many proposals in the past days," Kovith continued. "Some wish to study your ability. Others wish to recruit you for military purposes. The Melodari have offered to build a research center dedicated to understanding human potential. The Thornaki have suggested establishing a formal alliance between their species and yours." Elias nodded slowly. He had expected this. "May I speak?" he asked. "You may." He took a deep breath. The chamber was quiet. Every eye was fixed on him. He thought about the archivist's words, about the precursors who had destroyed themselves trying to control their gift, about the moment in the Melodari station when he had stopped time itself. "I know what you want," he said. "You want to understand my ability. You want to use it. You want to train humans to become weapons or protectors or tools. Some of you are afraid of what we might become. Others are excited by the possibilities. All of you are thinking about how humanity's gift could change the balance of power in the galaxy." Murmurs ran through the crowd. Elias raised his hand, and they fell silent. "I understand. I do. In a galaxy full of threats and conflicts and dangers, a species that can bend reality sounds like the ultimate advantage. But you are missing something important, something that the precursors missed, something that nearly destroyed them." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "My ability does not come from training. It does not come from concentration or willpower or any technique that can be taught. It comes from love, from genuine, unconditional care for other beings. When I stopped that knife, I was not thinking about saving the ambassador. I was not calculating odds or considering consequences. I simply saw someone in danger and refused to let them die." He looked up at the council, at the countless species watching from their seats. "The moment I start thinking about it, it stops working. The moment I try to control it, it fades. I cannot decide to bend reality. I cannot choose when or how to use this power. It happens when I love someone enough to refuse their death. That is all. That is everything." Kovith leaned forward. "You are saying the ability cannot be controlled? I am saying it should not be controlled. The precursors tried. They created systems, programs, methods to trigger the protective response on command. And in doing so, they lost it. Because the moment you start calculating who deserves to be saved, you stop truly caring about anyone. You become a machine. And machines cannot bend reality." He turned to face the galleries where his crew sat. "I am not your savior. Humanity is not your weapon. We are just people. People who evolved on a planet so dangerous that we had to learn to care for each other or die. People who cannot watch someone in danger without trying to help. People who, sometimes, care so much that the universe itself bends to our will." He turned back to the council. "If you want to study us, I cannot stop you. If you want to fear us, I understand. But I will not let my gift become a tool for anyone's agenda. I will not let humanity walk the same path as the precursors. We will use our ability, the only way it works. Without calculation, without control, without deciding who deserves to live and who deserves to die." He took another breath. "We will simply love. And when someone we love is in danger, we will act. That is all we can promise. That is all we should promise." The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then Ambassador Yannori rose from her seat. Her crystalline body caught the light and scattered it across the chamber like 1,000 tiny stars. "The humans ask nothing of us," she said. "They do not demand payment for their gift. They do not threaten us with their power. They simply offer to be what they have always been. Beings who care, beings who protect, beings who refuse to accept preventable loss." She floated down toward the center of the chamber, coming to stand beside Elias. The Melodari were saved by a human who expected nothing in return. He did not know me well. He had no reason to risk himself for my sake. But he saw danger and he moved. He acted without thought, without calculation, without hesitation. Because that is what humans do. She turned to face the council. We have spent centuries measuring the worth of species by their strength, by their technology, by their ability to wage war. Perhaps it is time we measured worth differently. Perhaps it is time we valued kindness as much as power, compassion as much as conquest. She placed her crystalline hand on Elias's shoulder. The humans have given us a gift today, not their power. That was always theirs. They have given us hope. Hope that the universe is not as cold as we believed. Hope that caring about each other matters. Hope that love might be written into the fundamental forces of reality. One by one, other delegates rose. The Velthari delegation, the Thornaki elders, species Elias had never met, standing from their seats to show support. Not because humans were powerful, because humans were kind, and in a galaxy full of fear and violence and calculation, kindness was the rarest power of all. High Arbiter Koveth watched the chamber fill with standing figures. For a long moment, the ancient being said nothing. Then, slowly, it rose as well. The council acknowledges the words of Commander Vance and Ambassador Yanori, Koveth said. No action will be taken against humanity. No forced study. No military recruitment. The humans will be allowed to live as they have always lived. With one addition. Elias looked up. What addition? The Hegemony Council formally recognizes humanity as a protected species. Not because you need protection, but because your gift needs protection. We will not allow anyone to force you down the path of the precursors. We will not allow fear or greed to corrupt what you have. Koveth's great stone face shifted into something that might have been a smile. Go home, Commander Vance. Live your life, love your people, and know that when you act without thought, without calculation, without hesitation to save another being, the galaxy will be watching. Not with fear, with gratitude. Elias felt something warm in his chest. Something that had been cold for months. Hope. He looked at Ambassador Yanori, at Captain Morvith, at Kethra, who was crying green tears again, at the thousands of aliens who had risen to stand with humanity. They were not his species. They were not his blood. But they were his family now. All of them. The whole galaxy. Full of beings who had chosen to see kindness as strength. Thank you, he said quietly. And somewhere deep inside him, in the oldest parts of his brain, the gift pulsed once, warm and bright and ready. Not for war, not for conquest, just for love, just for protection, just for the simple, stubborn refusal to let the people he cared about come to harm. It was not a power that could be controlled or calculated or commanded. It was something better. It was human. And that, Elias finally understood, was enough.